Preventing truth decay.
Truth decay. It's the Cary Harrison Show.
For those who've never known war, freedom is as fragile as the wings of a butterfly. For those who have, there is nothing in life more valuable. Liberation Route Europe follows the path of our liberators, connecting the milestones of our joint past and present. It takes you on a journey through Europe's contemporary history, knowing that what we do today matters most.
Cary Harrison with you. You know, many of us enjoyed true World War II series like Band of Brothers or incredible films like Saving Private Ryan. But where do these events really take place? Well, a European nonprofit collective called Liberation Route Europe has created an entire sustainable route for all of us to see with our own eyes. History and the whats and the whys of how we got to where we are today and how history often repeats itself is a form of continuing education, I guess, that certainly cannot be underscored. So let me introduce you to the managing director of Liberation Route Europe, Rémi Praud, try to pronounce that correctly. He's in Belgium. And Rémi, I want to welcome you and thank you for being a co-creator of this brilliant idea.
Well, thank you, Cary, for having me. It's a pleasure to speak to you tonight.
Not kidding when I'm talking about people getting a chance for the first time ever to see these actual routes that our Allied heroes took from London all the way to Berlin.
Indeed, this is our idea that we created about 10 years ago. You have many museums, you have many cemeteries, historical sites that you can visit, and you can visit for a long time now. But our idea was to connect them and to create a route, which we call the Liberation Route Europe. And if you travel through our continent, it's through Europe, you can indeed visit those different sites and follow a trail and hike, take your bike, your car, and so on. And so our job is to connect the dots.
Cary Harrison with you, and we're talking to Rémi Praud, one of the co-creators and managing director of Liberation Route Europe. For the first time ever, we can visit the exact steps, the trails, the routes that the Allies took to vanquish the Nazis. Imagine seeing Normandy, Omaha Beach, or descending into the original Nazi bunkers. And I want to make sure every American has a chance to see their own history, the history of their own grandfathers who fought to keep this country free and which created the brotherhood we now know and depend on between Europe and America.
Absolutely. When we started the project 10 years ago, there was a virtual connection between those sites. But a few years ago, we had the intention to create a tangible connection between those sites, and we had a partnership with different hiking associations to create and to put together this list of trails that you can follow and hike. We also want in the future to connect cycling routes as well. So as you said, it is fully sustainable, and you can for now travel for about 10,000 kilometers because indeed you have this trail from London to Berlin, but you also have trails in Italy, from Sicily to Milan, or from the French Riviera, Provence, and then all the way up to Germany. So you have many trails across Europe that we're trying to connect.
You know, we all love mystery history, and I travel a lot to find you those hidden stories. So I'm going to create a tour that takes us along this route. So keep an eye and an ear peeled for more information down the road.
This is unique. I think this is a very unique experience personally. As you said, we all have family more or less connected to this history. And when you go to Omaha Beach or to the Battle of the Bulge sites, or if you go to Berlin, history is there. And you've heard probably a lot about it. You can watch movies, and you mentioned Band of Brothers. But when you have your personal experience of a museum, of a landing beach like Omaha Beach, or a cemetery where you see 10,000 graves in front of you, then you understand better what happened. And that's something that stays with you for a very long time because you include this emotional component. And then you have the history of your country or the history of your continent, as we speak as Europeans. And then you understand better reading about those different perspectives and seeing them in museums that history is not black and white. history is complicated, and what we want to do is to show that complexity, show those different perspectives, so people have a better understanding of what happened 76 years ago and what it means for today. Because behind it, you have a very strong message of peace, of reconciliation, of freedom that we should always care about and defend.
You know, last summer I was in Berlin for the inauguration of Liberation Route Europe and spoke with the few surviving soldiers who were part of the actual liberation.
So here we are in Berlin, Germany. Is this the first time you've been back since World War II?
Yes, it is.
And what did you expect when you knew you were coming back to Berlin?
I was very anxious. I didn't know what to expect because my memories that stood with me for so many years were not pleasant ones because I participated in World War II.
But anyway, I was in a good outfit. We had to do what we had to do. We did it. So, and after the Battle of the Bulge, I'm going through it, pretty fast. But it was tough. And we ended up at the Ruhr River in December when the Battle of the Bulge ended, and on Christmas Eve, we were firing. See, the bridges were out, so they had to build bridges for it. So we were firing our guns, artillery. We had a toad mount about like that, and we had to fire them with artillery to protect them, which we did. And on Christmas Eve, we got an order to stop firing, and they stopped too.
The Germans did?
Yeah. And they started to play Christmas carols. This was one of the greatest moments of my combat, because we were just sitting there silently, and I was looking at Christmas cards and thinking about home, and they started to play Silent Night, Holy Night. Yeah, man, I was singing right along with them, and so was the guys, And I mean, I didn't hate my enemy. I really didn't. I felt sorry for them because they had to fight. They couldn't say no to Hitler, even though they didn't believe what they were fighting for. At least I believed what I was fighting for.
You know, I think a real take-home is that these guys, all hovering around 100 years old, realize that the best thing in the world is peace, not more war. Maybe a great reason for all of us to remember what war looks like so we don't have to repeat it again. I think this brings us closer to the point of peace is good, though sometimes we do have to fight for what's good.
History is not black and white. History is complicated, and what we want to do is to show that complexity, show those different perspectives, so people have a better understanding of what happened 76 years ago and what it means for today. Because behind it, you have a very strong message of peace, of reconciliation, of freedom that we should always care about and defend.
Talking to Rémi Praud, Managing Director of Liberation Route Europe. So, Rémi, how does the country of Germany feel about this important, possibly awkward reminder?
Well, the German government has been supportive since 2019, and I think this is a very symbolic move from their side, because they believe, and that's the case for decades, that they have a responsibility and they should support projects that make sure that people get access to the information, learn about World War II, and understand the meaning of war and the consequences of wars. And I think this is very symbolic, very powerful. But indeed, as you said, people on the ground might be a little bit upset about it. But I was very moved when I started to work for this project 10 years ago to realize that actually German people are supporting it fully. They want their perspective to be understood, of course. That for them, 76 years ago, it was not a liberation, but it became later on a liberation, because they agreed altogether, and I think 99% of Germans today would say the same thing, that they were liberated from the Nazi oppression. And that is very, very important. And apart from this support from the German government, I think what we show here, it's international cooperation with American colleagues, with European colleagues, Canadian colleagues, to show this sense of unity that we all want to keep this memory alive.
Rémi Praud, Managing Director of Liberation Route Europe. What is your favorite portion? You're a true insider.
I'm French, and I did 2 years ago this hike along the coast, and I must say that was absolutely stunning. The views are so beautiful, and it was around the 6th of June. So we were meeting people all the time. We met with lots of veterans, and that was very moving. So I would say Normandy as well is a soft spot for me. And maybe the last one, it's because it's unknown. I think lots of people don't realize that Italy is a very, very interesting battlefield, from Sicily to Milan, Rome, Anzio, Monte Cassino, the Gothic line in Tuscany. You have this very, very deep history that I think most people ignore. And so I would recommend people to travel to Italy for, the normal reasons, the usual reasons, architecture, art, food, and so on, but also to discover the World War II history over there.
From Belgium, that's Rémi Praud, Managing Director of Liberation Route Europe. Without him and all of his many supporters, this piece of history might have simply vanished. Cary Harrison with you, and I invite you to look for updates here on Public Radio or get my free newsletter at caryharrison.com. Thanks so much for joining us today.
90.7 KPFK, Los Angeles.